to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, welcome along to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Thanks a lot for coming along, whatever you're doing, whatever you may be, where you may be going. Appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Jim Coyle with you as always. Jake at the helm, keeping things rolling for us. A lot to get to on the program today. Scott Agness from The Athletic will join us. Talk about a lot of different things as there's a slow news week turned busy all of a sudden. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers will join us as well today. So look forward to getting through all of that. A lot to talk about. Nothing bigger than Governor Eric Holcomb, Indiana's governor, signing the new sports gambling bill into law. We'll talk about that. Some NBA scores with the semifinals of the conference finals underway last night. IU kills it in the APR with 14 of 22 teams on a perfect score. IU's women's golf teams heading to the NCAA championships for the first time since 2007. We'll hear from those participants. The IU or the Big Ten softball tournament gets underway in Bloomington today. Weather permitting, that is. A little more from the Dawkins Code FBI trial. And Indiana football adds some needed help on the defensive front with DeMarcus Elliott coming from the JUCO route in Garden City, Kansas. But hit us up on the text line, coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. 812-269-6367 is the number there. Let us know what your thoughts or comments are. A lot to talk about, like I said. But last night of the NBA, Golden State and Houston, man, they were in a battle. Former Hoosier Eric Gordon and the Houston Rockets, they were down most of the game for the front half, and but I remember I was watching parts of it, and Reggie Miller commented at one point, and it was just apropos because you could feel it. But he mentioned that Golden State continuing to let Houston hang around, and they were, and they did, and Houston hung around, and then Kevin Durant went down with an injury. But Golden State is able to pull that one out. 104-99. Eric Gordon had 19 points. James Harden had 31 for the Rockets. But the big question for Golden State now, they're going to be without Kevin Durant as the series now moves to Houston with a 3-2 lead by Golden State. I know, Jake, you're a big fan of the basketball. You said we talked earlier. You said you think the Golden State's better without Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I said that with a caveat though, because that's obviously not true.
Right? No, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. I meant just from a team concept.
Yeah, I think that they're more fun to watch. I go back to that team from 2016 when that Warriors-Cavs rivalry was kind of starting to bubble up, and of course Kevin Durant ruined that, I think. But that's another discussion. But I just think they're a whole lot more fun to watch. I think with Steph and Clay being the primary focuses of the offense, I just think it's a much more fun, fluid team to watch.
I know one thing. If you're not a fan of Golden State, man, they have their Dennis Rodman. People have to Golden State non-fans have to hate Draymond Green. He's just that guy that just he's like, he just keeps pestering you and pissing you off, and he does a very good job of that.
Yeah, and I mean that's his role on that team is to just go out and get under people's skin and go out and get boards. He used to be able to shoot okay, but now his shot is just fell off the map. So really, that's all.
Dennis Rodman was similar. He scored a lot of points before he got to the NBA at the collegiate level, but Is it because they start focusing on that different role, which is kind of a subset of basketball, that their skill set kind of wanes in that department?
Possibly. Yeah, I don't know. Because it seemed like all of a sudden, really just this year, he was hurt a little bit this year too. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I'm not sure what the injury was. I can't remember. But yeah, like last year, a couple years ago even, he would get shots from up at the top of the perimeter, and generally he would be able to knock them down. He wouldn't take that many, I mean, just because that wasn't his role. But this year, teams are guarding him like they're guarding Ben Simmons, just letting him fire him wide open, and he's just bricking them.
Well, the NBA moves on now tonight. They switch to the other side of the ledger. Let's see. The Raptors and the 76ers. That series, Toronto leads at 3-2. They're in Philadelphia tonight. Toronto's a bucket underdog. On the out west, in the Western Conference, also a 3-2 lead by the Nuggets as they lead the Portland Trailblazers. Portland's a 4-point favorite in that contest. It's in Portland, of course. So, man, I'm not surprised to see 3 out of these 4 series go 7 games. Obviously, Boston last night, man, they laid a freaking egg. They won the first game of that series against the Bucks, and no more. As they, as Jake called it, they get gentlemanly swept out 4-1 in that series. So the Bucks will await the outcome of the Houston Rockets Golden State series. No, I'm sorry. They await the outcome of the 76ers Raptors for the Eastern Conference Finals. See how that turns out. And then the Western Conference, of course, gets underway as well. But also the Big Ten softball tournament gets underway today, hopefully, weather permitting. You know, I've looked at the forecast, and it's been dire. And then I looked at it again today, and it's like, I don't know. It looks like Bloomington may get a little lucky, a little split. It looks like that the heavy weather is situated above Bloomington a little bit. And there's a difference between the baseball and the softball fields at Indiana, I noticed. The baseball field is all turf. Infield is turf. The base paths are turf. There is no dirt at the baseball field, which disheartens me a little bit. I'd like to see some dirt. Now, the softball field, different story. Their infield, the base path parts of the infield, dirt or brick dust, whatever you want to call it, but it is live action. Will probably come into play with the expected rain in Bloomington all day, but looking at the weather, man, there's potential. I'll tell you, boy, you got potential. But it's hard to fathom. It's 72 degrees in Bloomington early on, and that is the high for today. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully they can get – because there's about 4 games scheduled starting at, I believe, 11 a.m. Is the first one. Indiana is set to hit the mound at 4:30 against Penn State. Indiana with a 7 seed taking on 10-seeded Penn State. But may get lucky with the weather. We'll certainly find out. We'll hear from Coach Stanton in the next segment, talk about things in that realm. Indiana athletes had a great year in the classroom. 14 Indiana University student athletes had a tremendous year, really, in this classroom. With the latest round of academic progress reports, or the APR report, it was released yesterday. 14 of Indiana's 22 programs earned a perfect 1,000 APR score for the 2017-18 academic year. 20 programs equaled or improved their score from the previous year. Not bad. The 14 IU programs that earned a perfect APR score last year were the women's basketball team, men's cross country, women's cross country, field hockey, men's golf, women's golf, rowing, women's soccer, men's swimming and diving, women's swimming and diving, women's tennis, track and field, volleyball, and water polo. This is the most perfect single-year APR score since 15 programs did it during the 2013-14 academic year. So pretty good. The 3 IU programs that earned perfect multi-year scores of 1,000, meanwhile, were field hockey, men's golf, and women's tennis. All of IU's 22 programs easily met the required 4-year average of 930 to be eligible for NCAA championship competition for next season. That's the important thing. This stuff is all tied in to tournament action now. That's one of the few things the NCAA has done well, mandating these academic progress scores be tied into. If your score is too low, you don't get to play. And something that affects that, though, are transfers. Indiana was facing the possibility of that just a couple of years ago when Archie Miller first got here. Indiana's APR in basketball was abysmal. As a matter of fact, they could not stand a transfer when Archie got here. That's one of the reasons he kept everybody. He didn't have a choice. If anybody would have transferred, of course, in hindsight, he probably would have been better off to ship them because they missed the damn tournament anyway for the next 2 years. So he could have cleaned house early on had he known that. Of course, he didn't. So I wonder how – there we go. Men's basketball was a 980, 944. I got to figure out how to read that. The multi-year was a 980 and a 944. So pretty close. They're up there towards 1,000, so they didn't miss it by much. Football team was 967 and a 972. So not too bad. I guess for football, that's not too bad at all because you got a lot of – that's 125 players probably being counted on that. Men's soccer just missed it at 990. The women's softball team, 989. So, again, they're up there pretty high. Even ones they don't miss. Men's tennis, 971. So, everyone did well, which is important.
The basketball's APR score also just added on to that. It ranks them 13th in the Big Ten for the second straight year. That is not very good. No.
There was only 14 teams in the Big Ten. That's a little surprising because that number's not out of 1,000. And that puts them 13th. Wow.
These the scores are delayed by a year.
Now, you're probably looking at the this is the I'm looking at the multi-year versus the 4-year run. Is it a 4 or 5 year? No, they do it by 3 years, right? They look at it two different ways. I think the 944 is the 3-year run, which, again, that's why that low number that you're talking about, that I'm talking about, the 944, that's over the 3 years that they look at and they keep track of. That's exactly what I'm talking about, that APR. So this year their score is 980. Their average is 944 over this 3-year period. Still getting hung for Tom Crean era. It is dragging them down like an anchor. If you can imagine, the score this year is 980, but they're still averaging only 944 over the 3 years. I don't have that score from 3 years ago in front of me, but it must have been abysmal. Horrible. Yeah, that almost landed them in some hot water. But obviously they're doing a lot better since Archie Miller got here. A lot of that was due to transfers, all the unbelievable amount of transfers for Crean. He would over-recruit, and then he would either hit a home run or strike out 10 times in a row. Wasn't a good situation, but things are rectified seemingly right now. And so it looks good in that regard. Dawkins and Code. They're still at it in the FBI trial. I think that's pretty much wrapped up. It'd be very interesting now to see what the NCAA does going forward. I bet I just cannot wait to see. I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna have the old we can't prove anything, like with Kansas, for example, when you have Bill Self texting Dawkins, thanking him for the recruit, thanking him for working so hard on getting him their next best bought players. Nothing will happen to Kansas. It's Kansas, Toto. Muppet Mark Emmert's not going to do a damn thing to Kansas. Just like they won't do anything with Duke. Of course, Zion. He ought to be called Zion. Neon Zion. Zion Williams. Of course he didn't get paid. Of course his people were asking money for everybody else under the sun, but not Duke. They were going there for the quality education. Whatever. We'll see. We'll see about that. Indiana's women's golf team, they're going to the NCAA championships for the first time since 2007, making it out of regional play. Congratulations to them. A lot of programs at IU, man, on the uptick, especially on the women's side, especially. You got women's golf obviously doing well, women's softball doing well, the volleyball program is doing well. Obviously, the basketball program is doing well. Large uptick in the programs. Great to see. We'll hear from Coach Stanton later on, but we'll also hear from the folks of the golf team. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. When we come back, we'll hear from Coach Shauna Stanton of the Indiana softball team. Stay tuned. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Hope your day's off to a great start. Jake at the helm, keeping things rolling for us. A lot to get to today. Nothing bigger than the new law being signed in, sports gambling signed in by the governor. We'll talk about that later. But right now we had an opportunity to talk to Indiana softball coach Shonda Stanton as Indiana hosting the Big Ten softball tournament this week, starting today, weather permitting. Let's hear what Coach Stanton had to say.
Coach, second season here. Are things where you thought they'd be right now? Because you guys are doing pretty well.
It's exciting. I think as a coach, you have a 5-year plan and, 3-year plan, and you're always looking, what your plan is. But you know what? When you get into a season and when you coach young people, all you do is say yes to possibilities. Because I think if you start saying, hey, this is our benchmark and this is where we should be, what happens when you arrive and you're only partway through, you think there's limits. And so with this group, we sat in Mellencamp, and you spend a lot of time in there in January before you get outside. And we were dropping some balls and doing some uncharacteristic things, but we knew we had pitching. We knew we had somebody of the caliber of a Terra trainer who just got drafted in the Pro League. And so we knew we could be really special. And really, we got out to that hot start. Best season to start in IU softball history. We were ranked for 6 straight weeks. We got 35 wins on the season, and we want that to be commonplace here. And so I give all the credit in the world to our young people because if you don't put limits on them, they do amazing things, and they surprise you every single day. And I think if you look at the course of our season, it's fun to kind of go back once you get to the summer and you look at different games and you see, gosh, that kid stepped up here, that kid there. We didn't have on our roster any All-Americans that were returning or, that we had to wait till they got up in the lineup. It was, hey, pass the bat, do your job, do it well, bring your best, bring it often, and then look what happens. Amazing things can happen. So I'm proud of how Team 46 has worn the Indiana script, and we want to make a late surge here at the end.
You talk about opportunities, 18 years at Marshall. What brought you to Indiana?
Yeah, I had some opportunities, at times, and, I think I'd gotten to that point in my career in 2017 where we had come off one of the best seasons ever in Marshall softball history. We were ranked in the top 25. And I loved my staff. Chanda and Kendall are 2 young women that I thought, I got to be with these people for a long time because we could build something special. And they were going to give me 1 more year in Huntington. And when Indiana called, it was one of those things where instantly when I talked to Scott, my direct report, I was excited about it. So then I started doing some research. And, Fred Glass's vision of 24 sports, 1 team, he's all about it. And the student-athlete experience is so important here, and that's important to me. There's a lot of things that are important to me. Winning, what's important now. And so it was one of those things where it was a values-based decision why I chose Indiana. And then you get on campus here. Are you kidding me? How beautiful is this campus? And then the IU degree, the reputation. So, I went from a situation where I felt like we had to be on and sell ourselves to show up at an institution like this, and it sells itself. I call it the Hoosier factor. all we got to do is continue to go out and recruit hard and well. But you bring them on campus here, and it's a wonderful thing. So I felt like this was a sleeping giant that we could wake up. And I felt that the senior staff was quality. You win with people. And that's, I haven't been surprised. I get here. I got to give a lot of credit to my direct report, Scott. He's done an awesome job in allowing us to be able to coach and do our thing with this group. And really, when it comes down to it, we're all in this for the student athletes. And so we got the best and the brightest out there. These young people are tremendous young people. They'll never cease to surprise you and amaze you. And so I'm proud to coach them. I'm excited about where Indiana softball is headed in the future.
Indiana softball, not a long legacy of success. Hadn't been to the tournament since 2011 and been a long time before that, I think. But you come here in your second season now, and obviously some big results pretty quickly. You got to be happy with that, but you got to be happy with where you can see this program going now.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at this program, you're talking 46 years of softball. I mean, that's history. And go back and look at some of those early days. You're talking those early from the late 70s, the 80s, and into the 90s. Indiana softball, a lot of people that are in the business passed through these doors, through these halls, and got IU degrees. And so we have a foundation here that is so strong and so solid. And sure, there were some years there that maybe weren't as strong as they could be. But you look at the 2011 season, you look at some of the Big Ten titles early. There's history here, and so we're excited to continue as we get into year 3. Start engaging the alumni base and saying, "Hey, we got a great foundation. Let's wake this thing up and everybody get behind it," because we're starting to have an exciting brand of ball that these young people in Team 45 and Team 46 have kind of just lit the fire. And they give us a little bit of a jump start. So, our history is a little bit further, but it's important to look back and say now, what, we want our history to be now. And we're seeing that with this group.
With the 18 years at Marshall, you're a seasoned recruiter. Talk about the recruiting base in the state of Indiana and surrounding areas.
Oh, it's tremendous. We got to be inside out. When I got the job here, I'm so thankful that the recruiting rules changed for softball. We've been able to eliminate some of those early verbals. We can't have contact now with kids until September 1 of their junior year. I got here and there were already, probably 20 kids committed that were even all the way down to 2021s that were freshmen in high school. And so and then you looked around the state and all these kids were committed everywhere, going to the SEC, going to the ACC, going out west. And so the nice thing is now we're getting a little bit, when you look ahead at some of our, kids, we're getting Indiana kids. And that's where it's got to start. It helps your fan base. High level balls played here. You look at some of the high schools here and the talent, seasoned high school coaches that have done a tremendous job. And so we want to recruit the region hard. We're just a little bit late to the party and the dance. A lot of the Big Ten's already on it. But you know what? We're still going to go ahead and have a good time at the party. And, eventually those Indiana kids are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to pass on somebody. I'm not going to pass on Indiana and go elsewhere. I'm going to stay home and I'm going to make the flagship school proud, because there's nothing better than being an in-state kid and be able to put your school on the map.
You're at a Power 5 school now, but what's been the easiest thing and the most difficult part of that?
Yeah. The easiest thing is just something new. I think when you're 18 years, it's something you have your system in place, and the kids just kind of coach the team. And you just let the tradition be passed down. When we came here, my staff, we had to be on, and you're teaching your system and your training. So it just really just reinvigorates you and keeps you young, because every day you have to be ready and fired up. And so I'm so thankful for my staff. They've been tremendous, and it goes down to our GAs and our support staff, the trainer and our sports media people. So I'd say that was been the easiest thing, is that I was able to create a staff that is like-minded as far as passion and love for the game, and it shows with how our kids play the game. The hardest thing I would say is I think anytime there's change, I think it can be tough, right? Anytime there's a change, because people like to be comfortable. And so, I think change is always challenging, but to the confident, you're pumped up and fired that things can be better. And so I think with us, there are some growing pains in year 2. And we always say year 2 is harder. But surprisingly, for a while there, it's been a pretty good run. And now we want to finish strong to help propel us in year 3 as well.
In a lot of sports, we've seen it in Indiana basketball, when there's a change in regimes, there's some growing pains and some difficulties, because you've got people that recruited by a different coaching staff and maybe saw them in a different light.
Right.
Have you had any of that difficulty? How hard has it been to weld these two regimes together, so to speak?
Well, I think anytime you coach a sport, you're talking about 23 kids or 22 kids on a roster, 9 or 10 get to play. Maybe you play 12 tops. And so regardless if it's a new coach, an old coach, a change that's welcome or not welcome, it's messy and it's fun and it's great and it's hard and it's exciting and it's everything in between. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think the teams that really prevail are the teams that handle conflict well, the teams that handle the mess well. It's just like a family. You're going to fight with your brothers and sisters, or you're not going to like what mom and dad do. But at the end of the day, if you have that love for each other and you support each other and you can have the hard conversations, then I think you prevail. And I think Indiana softball we're well on our way of doing that. But I won't say it's always easy. I'll say we have our messes, but I tell you, I like how we work with each other and that we're learning how to grow. And we're going to develop strong, confident women here. And that's what we're doing. I'm proud of this group.
Big platform this week with the Big Ten tournament being here right here in Bloomington and Andy Moore Field. Well, how can you use that, whether it's a recruiting tool or an opportunity to show your program off?
Yeah, and there's 12 schools here, all elite programs that have an opportunity to win a Big Ten title this week. And so that attracts not only their family and friends, but it attracts recruits. Some come to see IU, some come to see the 11 other schools that are in the tournament. So that's why I'm hoping the weather, holds out, because I tell you what, they come here and they see Bloomington and how gorgeous it is, and they see this campus. How could you not want to be here and come back? So it's a huge recruiting tool. We've got 11 games on national TV, and Jeremy and his guys have done an incredible job. This place looks beautiful. Davis, our events guy, has been a great lead as far as the tournament director, so the hospitality is going to be awesome. I can go out and just coach and enjoy the week, and we're excited to be the host.
Wish you the best of luck, Coach. Good luck in the tournament.
Thank you. Go IU.
And that was Coach Shonda Stan from the Indiana University softball program as they open up play in the Big Ten tournament at home in Bloomington at Andy Moore Field, hopefully today at 4:30 if weather permits, as there's a possibility of rain, thunderstorms in the Bloomington area today. But looking at the weather right now, looks like a possibility. May get lucky. Not sure. We'll see how that works out. But stay tuned. We got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. I'm Jim Coyle. We'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Cheated on my baby. You can go and ask her. My life is a movie. Bull riding in boobies. Cowboy hat from Gucci. Wrangler on my booty. Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. It's Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us research program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Week with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here, sitting in with you as always. Hope your day's off to a great start. Gambling. Legal, man. It's going to be legal. It is legal in Indiana now, as Governor Eric Holcomb has signed the bill into law. Not sure exactly how long before the bets hit the table, but people will be able to bet right on their phones, man. We'll talk about this later on today. We'll talk with Scott Agness from The Athletic. We'll talk about a lot of things with Scott, but gambling is definitely one of them. What are your thoughts? Obviously, it is something that Hoosiers wanted, but I think this is about the money, man. This is all about the money because Indiana is one of the most conservative states in the country. I've used this same analogy, and I'm not going to stop because I think it's it's as good as any. But you know, the biggest hot button in the country is marijuana. The legalization of marijuana. Many states, I don't know exactly how many states have legalized it now, but a lot, like 19 in some form, either recreational or medicinal. It may be higher than that. But Indiana is not a state that I see legalizing marijuana anytime soon because of their conservative nature. Although that's mainly because you've got a bunch of people that live in the dark ages who wrongly see marijuana as a gateway drug or see it as a drug. It's no more a drug than anything else that people take. It has so many medicinal purposes, yet you've got these people that just, oh no, God forbid. Now drink all the bourbon you want. Get drunk off your butt. But no, you can't use something that actually has multiple proven medical uses, like many states around. I keep saying the Kremlin will have legal marijuana before Indiana does. But gambling? Oh, that's okay, because that's going to make us a lot of money. Lots of money. More money than marijuana would, probably. Nah, maybe not. I don't know. Because marijuana would also be a big ticket item for the state. And I'm not sitting here advocating it. I'm not opposing it. I'm just saying. I find it funny how a state like Indiana can look at one thing with such hands-off approach, and yet what benefit does gambling offer other than the state making money? Does it provide one benefit? No, it doesn't benefit anybody other than the gambling of those that win money, but there's no benefit. You got something like marijuana that has a benefit, a proven multiple medical benefit to multiple types of afflictions, whether it's seizures in children. Now you've got the CBD oil that's been approved, and there's a step. But I'm just looking at this from just shaking my head at how people look at things. It's just funny. Now you've got the gambling. Indianapolis is home to so many athletic associations. Of course, you start with the biggest, well-known, the NCAA, the National Cheating Athletic Alliance, is housed in Indianapolis. But there's many, many others. USA Gymnastics, I think USA Football, are the Pan American Games. There's so many. We need to get a list, Jake. There's a ton of athletic associations that are housed in Indianapolis. Amateur athletics. I'm not talking about the pro teams, the Pacers and the Colts, because you find those in a lot of places. Gambling, of course. Las Vegas has long been the home. Nevada long been the home of legalized gambling in the country. They are now opening up to having professional sports teams there with the advent of the hockey team going there and the football team soon to follow. But gambling is not something I ever dreamed would be legal. Sports gambling, legal in Indiana. Not before so many others. They're only the 10th of 50 states to legalize it. I think it's, who cares? It's like if people want to gamble, they're going to gamble. And I think that's part of what they've seen, that with the advent of what you can do on your phone, on your smartphone, it almost doesn't matter. Just a very interesting turn, because it's all about the money. There's no benefit. It brings no benefit other than money. Now, you can say, well, that money will be a benefit because they can use that for programs. Yeah, I'm not sure where if that money is earmarked. Well, I'm sure it's earmarked for some people's pockets, but it's just it's different for Indiana to do. But hey, it's coming. Also, a casino in Terre Haute goes along with that, I believe. And it wasn't long ago when the gambling boats first came to Indiana. This is how archaic this state acted. The gambling facilities had to be on a boat floating on the river or on water, and they had to move. The one that went in down in southern Indiana, Harrison County, outside of Floyd County, which is where New Albany is. Do you know why it went into Harrison County? Because Floyd County voted it down just ridiculously, because you know what they did? They just went right down and put it on just on the other side of the Floyd County line, just outside of the county. So what do? All they did was still benefited from it, but that was the idiocy, the thinking. Church groups get involved, and it was like, what do you think, you're going to stop it? All you did was cost your community millions of dollars. But anyway, then those boats, they had to move. And because of the boundary of the Ohio River, Kentucky's boundary is like 80% of the river. So that boat just barely went along shore and would come right back to its mooring spot. But it had to move. Now that ridiculous law has been replaced. They also don't use guillotines anymore. But Indiana steps into the legalized sports gambling. A little surprising, but it's all about the money. It's all about the money. I don't have a problem with it. I have no problem with it, because people should be able to do what they want to do within reason, as long as there's no benefit to the general public, and there's absolutely no detriment to the general public. People go, oh, you're going to people get you can't control people's lives, man. If people are going to do dumb things, they're going to find an outlet for dumb things. I assure you. Dumb people do dumb things. And there's no market on that.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Exactly. I wonder what the dude would think about the gambling. Yeah, I don't think he cares, man. He's not a gambler. Now, he would be all for the marijuana being legalized for certain. But Indiana expects to bring in some millions of dollars with this new gambling bill. And they will. You've also got a city, Indianapolis, that hosts a lot, and I mean a lot of sporting events, major sporting events. Of course, the NCAA Final Four will be back. 2021, I think, is when it is back. But there's many other things. There's also professional sports. I don't see that. It's in this day and age, there's no correlation anymore. There's no worry about point shaving and all that crap. It'll be interesting to see how they get this implemented. What they're able to do with that. How far reaching is it going to be? Will it benefit from the surrounding states, people? Because I don't know the law. How do they control? If like you can gamble from your phone, how? I mean, I know that they can track you, know, wherever you are pretty much anymore, but do you have to be inside the border to place the bet? How's that going to work? You got all these people live in Chicago, millions of people, with 3-4 million people live in the Chicago area, just outside of the Indiana border. You've got Cincinnati down in the southeast, sitting in the southeast corner of Indiana. You got Columbus, Ohio, which is an hour to the east of Indiana. St. Louis, just a few hours off the southwest corner of Indiana. Louisville, right across the river from New Albany. Detroit sits up outside the northeast corner of Indiana. So Indiana's surrounded by some major markets, people to draw from. And Terre Haute, which is a border city over on the western border, smack dab almost in the middle. But there's nothing around them on the Illinois side. It's desolate over there. But Evansville and the casinos that are already active that are outside of Louisville, man, they look to benefit. There's a boat up by Cincinnati. So you got boats near these major communities that are outside of Indiana. They're going to benefit, man. How long do these other states hold out? Especially a state like Illinois and Chicago. I'm really surprised they didn't beat Indiana to the punch. More than surprised. Joker texts in on, says, the church groups in Floyd and Clark County voted the boat down. They were afraid their bingo halls would take a hit. Preaching gambling is bad and things in violence and prostitution. Well, that is bingo. It's gambling. Hypocrites. Everybody likes to see things go their own way and to benefit themselves. Yeah, that kind of bit them. All they did was lose millions of dollars for their communities. But this is a much bigger, broader thing now. And then you have a state like Kentucky, which I find funny and hypocritical because one of their biggest commerces is gambling on horse racing. The racetracks, Churchill Downs. It will not be long before they have legalized gambling now that Indiana has forged ahead with this, because they're going to see a lot of money filtering through Louisville over across that river when they have Churchill Downs, and Churchill Downs is all about the money, baby. It's all about the money. The Kentucky Derby, no longer anything to do with locals. The day before was Oaks. That used to be Locals Day. Forget that. It's just a hybrid of the Derby now. The day before that, they now call it Thurby, which is the Thursday. That was kind of forced to the locals. They're about to lose that one next. Churchill Downs is all about the money they make over that period. They've built a colossus that is just built around Derby and making money on gambling and gamblers. I expect them to follow suit shortly, personally. Be surprised not to see that. But it's here in Indiana. Not exactly how soon that'll start kicking up. Jake's practicing his trumpet. He has band practice today. Hey, we got a lot coming up on the program, man. On the show today, Scott Agness from The Athletic. Love talking to Scott. He covers the Pacers a lot. And we'll talk about that. But we'll talk about the sports gambling. We'll talk about Indiana basketball. We'll talk about Romeo Langford and the possibility of him becoming a Pacer. And he follows the Pacers pretty closely, so looking forward to getting his thoughts on that. Also, Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, the IU beat writer for CNHI. Those are papers around the state, like Jeffersonville, New Albany, Anderson, places like that. We'll talk about a lot of those similar subjects with him as well to get his perspective on things. We'll also hear from IU women's golf team as they are going to the NCAA championships for the first time since 2007. We'll hear from both coach and players alike. The Big Ten women's softball tournament gets underway today in Bloomington, weather permitting. Looks like they may get that in, according to the radar. Indiana plays at 4:30. They're the number 7 seed. They take on Penn State. First pitch is scheduled for 4:30. Purdue follows them, playing the last game of the day. I think that's scheduled to go off at 7. Hopefully they can get those games in, because this is the first day, and man, that would really put a wrench in the tournament going forward if they get knocked sideways. But we'll talk about all that and more, a whole lot. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more after this.
Well, now it's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All of the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't hit the...
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune in to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Welcome along to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, wherever you may be headed. We appreciate you taking Sports Beat along with you. Jim Coyle with you, as I said. Got Jake at the wheel, keeping things rolling. Hope your day's off to a great start. Plenty to get to today. Scott Agness from The Athletic will join us in the next segment. Kevin Brockway from CNHI, the IU beat writer, will join us after that. We got plenty to talk about. Nothing bigger than Governor Eric Holcomb signing the new Indiana sports gambling bill into law. You can gamble soon here in Indiana. Sports gambling, Indiana becomes one of just 10 states in the country that will allow that. We'll talk about that, of course, with both Scott and Kevin. NBA last night, the Houston Rockets, they tried, but they go down to Golden State 104-99. Eric Gordon with 19 points. Not enough, but they put up a valiant effort. That series now shifts to Houston with the Golden State holding a 3-2 edge. Kevin Durant goes down with an injury last night. Probably won't see him in Houston. They probably figure that's a loss anyway, as that series expected to go 7 games. Of course, the 7th game, though, will be back out in California. Milwaukee closed out Boston with a gentleman's sweep, 116-91. Boston won the first game of that series, and then that was it. Will Kyrie Irving be back? Boston could be in for some turnover. If Kyrie Irving leaves, Gordon Hayward is not kind of the way he was. Brad Stevens may have to do a quick rebuilding job off of a rebuilding job. Yeah, the other side of the coin of NBA games tonight, both of those series were 3-2. The Toronto Raptors, they visit Philadelphia to take on the Sixers tonight. The Sixers are down in that series 2-3. And then out west, the Denver Nuggets travel up the coast to Portland, take on the Trailblazers. The Nuggets with a 3-2 edge right now. We'll see how that ends up going. Great news for Indiana Athletics as the APR scores come out. Of the 22 athletic programs that IU has, 14 with perfect scores of 1,000. The 14 IU programs that earned a perfect APR score were women's basketball, men's cross country, field hockey, men's golf, rowing, women's soccer, men's swimming, diving, women's tennis, women's track, field, volleyball, water polo. This is the most perfect single-year APR scores since 15 programs did it during the 2013-14 academic year. The 3 IU programs that earned multi-year scores of 1,000, meanwhile, were field hockey, men's golf, and women's tennis. That's pretty tough to do there, that 3-year score. All of IU's 22 programs easily met the required 4-year average of 930 to be eligible for NCAA championship competition. The men's basketball team still suffering from the Tom Crean era. That 930 is the benchmark that you have to hit over that 3-year average. They're at 944. This year's score was 980. Much, much higher. A very good score. But they've been dragging a piano around since Tom Crean left. And it was so bad, Archie could not afford, in his first season, he could not afford to have anyone transfer. Had they transferred, it would have dropped them and automatically kicked them out of NCAA competition. Of course, hindsight, it wouldn't have mattered now. Hell, maybe he wished they would have just done that and taken the hit if you knew what you knew now. They didn't make the tournament anyway. But the scores are back up. Men's football, that's a tough one. But their 4-year average is 972. Score this year down a little bit, 967, but not bad at all. But pretty good, 972. That's a pretty daggone good average for a football team, man. You got 125 kids. You got transfers. That's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. But congratulations to the IU Academics. And congratulations to the IU women's golf team as they played their way out of regional competition, and now they will be heading to, I believe, Fayetteville, Arkansas for the NCAA championship play. We'll get to hear from Coach. Is that what we have up first, Jake?
Yep.
All right, let's hear from the coach.
Top to bottom, great effort. Right out of the gate, they were strong. I think it was really, really awesome. Yesterday was a little bit of a struggle, but they pulled it together, and I think they just kept that momentum going. So I'm really proud of them. It's a great accomplishment for this team. We've been poised to be there, and it's just, it's great to finally get some reward for all the hard work. The girls have done a tremendous job. I mean, as well as I do that, we've had some golf course issues with, the new renovation and not being able to play in practice as much as we've wanted to. But, they've worked through that and they've done a great job. And I think it just elevates Indiana golf and puts us, on the map a bit more.
Coach Clint Wallman, in his 15th season at the helm of the Indiana women's golf program, he's done pretty well. He's produced 8 All Big Ten honors and a Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So they have their success is moving forward. Always a great thing to see. We also get to hear from the players. There's a myriad of players talking here, and I don't have them identified. I apologize. So, but let's hear from the women.
I thought it was really challenging when we started off. It was very windy this morning, starting off at 9 a.m. And as we went to the back nine, it dropped about 10 degrees too because the sun went away. I think we just persevered and we played in worse conditions, so we were just prepared for it all around.
It's very exciting because I can't even tell you the last time our team has gone to nationals, and coming from experience last year, going as an individual isn't as fun as people think it is, so I'm very excited to go as a team and we can all experience it together.
I think we'll carry the momentum we've had kind of all spring. We've fed off everyone's energy and just try to carry that same energy into nationals.
There's the IU women's golf team. Congratulations to them as they will be heading to Fayetteville, Arkansas to play in the NCAA championships for the golf. Great things for a lot of programs in Indiana. As I said, the Big Ten softball tournament gets underway today. Indiana had its best start ever to a season this year. Started out, I forget, they were ranked 6th for 6 weeks. Great run for them. Coming up, joining us, Scott Agness from The Athletic. We talk about a lot of things, including the possibility of Romeo Langford becoming a Pacer. It's a real possibility now. It wasn't quite so earlier in the year because he was projected to be a 5, 6, 7 area. Well, he's just continued to drop after a poor performance season. Down now looked to be possibly sitting outside of the top 20. The Pacers have the pick at 18th, but there's no guarantees that the Pacers are going to pick at the 18th spot because they may trade up or down. Whatever they can do to better their roster, they're going to do that. They are definitely not focused on getting Romeo Langford. They're looking at just making the team better. Is Romeo Langford a good fit for the Pacers? Not sure. We'll talk about that with Scott Agness. He follows them quite closely and covers them for The Athletic. Been on with us before, and he'll be on with us pretty regularly, but he was on with us last few weeks ago when the Pacers were still in the NBA playoffs. But it'd be very interesting. The Pacers have faced this before with an Indiana high school phenom, Damon Bailey. Now this is a little different. Romeo's a different beast. Romeo's going to be a first-round draft choice. Damon Bailey was not. Injuries kind of really took a toll on Damon's knees. Great basketball mind, man. That dude, he was like a Larry Bird in too small of a body. If he'd have been 6'9" like Larry Bird, man, he could have done a lot of damage, I think, just because he has got an extremely high basketball IQ. Crazy. And his abilities were nuts. He was very similar to Bird, passing, shooting, just smart, just outsmart you. We'll talk about all that and more Coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed with Jim Coyle from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with Scott Agness right after this.
Honey, what's wrong with you? Well, now, baby, honey, what's wrong with you?
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. It's Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
See it's foaming like a bottle of beer. The wave is coming, but I ain't got no fear. I'm waxing down to that glorious past.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Speed. Jim Coyle with you here as always, and we're grateful to be joined by our good friend Scott Agness from The Athletic. Joins us now. Scott, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on again.
As always, it's a pleasure, man. It's been a slow week, but all of a sudden it seems like things are just kind of busting loose today, man.
Yeah, no question. There's various things going on, whether you're talking nationally and teams trying to wrap up actual games, or on the coaching search with the Lakers, or just kind of every other team ramping up. In a week from now, they'll be at the Combine in Chicago. So there's kind of a lot going on at this point in terms of NBA.
Yeah, it looks like the Lakers took a page out of the playbook from UCLA's coaching start as they find themselves in a weird situation. We talked a little bit before, but they're trying to hire a coach without having a president in place. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's very much a backward situation. And like I've been thinking here, first of all, if you're a coach, number one, you're going to want your guaranteed money beyond 3 years, like Ty Lue was reportedly offered, but you're also going to want your boss in place. And so it's a situation where you've had several quality candidates in Monty Williams and now Ty Lue most recently turn down the job. And if you're the Lakers, this is further and black mark on your franchise, where they should be the lead of the group. They get the most interest nationally and worldwide, and yet they're having hot coaches that are without head coaching jobs, turn them down.
Yeah, it's kind of like a college coach being hired by one athletic director, and then there being a different athletic director. Everybody always wants their own people in there, and you kind of feel uneasy when you don't have the guy that brought you in over you.
Yeah, and that works both sides, right? You want to not only work for a guy that you have a good relationship with and trust you to do your job, but also have the ability to hire your assistants. And that seems to be also an area, Jim, where the Lakers management stepped in and was like, you know what, we'd kind of like to push these 2-3 guys on you in all that situation. And the head coach, you're around these guys. Anyone with a team, you're around these guys more than anyone, your own family even. So you don't want to go to battle with guys that necessarily aren't your guys, or maybe you have no chemistry with. You want to build guys around you that not only help you, but maybe counter where your weak points are. Or if you're an offensive-minded coach, you want that defensive-minded coach. So, yeah, it certainly works both ways, so I can understand why any coach would come with it from that viewpoint.
Lakers are obviously able to do this right now because they're not in the current NBA playoffs, and the playoffs are rolling. And the Indy guys are having a good time at it. Eric Gordon with a huge night a couple games ago with 30 points. But everybody's having a good playoff run for the Indy guys.
Yeah, and basically every series ongoing right now, you got somebody playing from Indy and doing very well. The lone exception, I would say right now, has been Gordon Hayward, who in the second round just hasn't really found a rhythm or found a groove. But that Celtics team's really been dysfunctional all season long, and this series has been no exception. But, yeah, you mentioned Eric Gordon with the Rockets, George Hill with the Bucks, and even Gary Harris with the Denver Nuggets as well.
And if Kyrie Irving leaves the Celtics, after a lot of people have thought that, of course the talk is going to come up with, is Brad Stevens going to stay? And Indiana people are going to go crazy. Go hire Brad Stevens, because so many people want him. But I don't see him ever leaving the NBA. Well, at least not for a long time.
It's hard to know at this point. I know early on, one of the challenges for him was adapting to the change in schedule. And what I mean by that, Jim, is there's no real practice time after you get a month or two into the season. And then also you miss the relationship part of it. You recruit a guy for 2 or 3 years, and assuming he plays for you, he's there with you like they were at Butler, most guys for 3 and 4 years. So that's like a 6-7 year process, and that you're around guys. And I forget what the exact number is, but I think it was Brad's first year in charge of the Celtics. They had something like 35 different players on their roster go through it, because that was a point where they obviously weren't winning, and they were cycling through players and making trades for the possibility to really boost the roster. And so I think those aspects are difficult. Now, that said, working for the Celtics is one of the storied franchises. You're not having to worry about recruiting and making and taking phone calls at 9 and 10 p.m. about a recruit that's probably going to turn you down in the next week. And you're, of course, coaching some of the best in the world. But coaching is not the number one thing in NBA. In college, coaches run programs. In the NBA, it's a players' league.
And talking about the NBA, of course, the draft is coming up soon. A lot of talk about Romeo Langford. Earlier in the year, he was a top 5, 6 pick projected. And, of course, he has steadily fallen since the season at Indiana. He did not have a great season. Indiana did not have a great season. But he's now fallen out of the top 20 for some of the draft projections. And what that does is that now the Pacers are sitting there at 18 right now, unless they trade, but there's that possibility. We've seen this before with Damon Bailey. Do they go for the big PR hit, or is this a good fit for the Pacers? You follow them as much as anybody, Scott. What do you think about adding Romeo Langford to this mix with a Victor Oladipo?
Well, for one, there's still several things that still have to be determined if you really want to look at those mock drafts, and one of those is the exact teams and their placement. So we'll have the draft lottery this upcoming Tuesday. That's when the lottery team, spots 1 through 14, will figure out where exactly they're picking, right? And so that obviously changes where a guy might be slotted to and has a good fit, like you mentioned. But to me, it seems like maybe Romeo, he just really didn't have that type of a freshman season that jumps out at you, even though he was one of the top scoring freshmen in the country. And I really do wonder, Jim, how much that injury to his thumb, I think it was, really impacted his shooting too, because that's probably the biggest knock on him at this point, as just like a 19-year-old, is can he shoot and do so from the three-point line on a consistent basis? Because we know he can attack, he has great finishing skills, and those sorts of things. Now, in terms of the Pacers, they have a lot of various positions and spots they need to fill. Victor's their only starter, along with Miles Turner, that will all likelihood be back on the roster next season that we expect. But Romeo being that lengthy guy in terms of wingspan and his ability to attack the rim and finish, that's intriguing. However, I think what they're also looking for would be maybe something a little more potential for now, a little more potential to shoot and create is really two of the things that the Pacers and Kevin Pritchard are looking for. And that said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers either trade up or trade out of this spot and do something in terms of making a trade or some kind of splash if they can find another deal and another team to make it work, because Kevin Pritchard's really wanting to upgrade this roster. And they have a great flexibility with the amount of money that they can spend or contracts that they could take on, which could allow them to also pick up a prize piece in exchange.
Talking with our friend of the show, Scott Agness from The Athletic. And Romeo has dropped like 15 spots, and that's just in the projections, of course. But every time I see something, it refers to his offhand ball handling and, of course, the shooting. But I don't see a lot of the NBA guys mentioning the injury, and I'm not sure that they're really buying into that, with good reason probably. But I think with him falling like he did, which I know it's no way that it would ever happen, but it probably would have been a good idea for him to spend a second year in college. But he's going to be a first-round draft pick, so that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so here's the argument, Jim, right? Of course he's not ready. Most of these guys are not ready or even close to what they could be, say, 2-3 years from now. Take, for example, the Pacers. Miles Turner would just now be entering his name into the draft if he stayed at Texas for 4 years. And think about the type of career he's already had, but he still has plenty more room for growth as well. And so you consider maybe Zion's the only true guy that had no business for sure even going to college. He's ready to make an impact, I think, starting next year. Romeo, to me, Jim, reminds me a lot of Noah Vonleh, in that obviously he's a top draft pick. He's a lottery guy. He has so much potential in the league, and that's why you got to, if you're the player, you got to go, because you can't risk being a guaranteed first-round pick and a real likely lottery pick for the chance to go back to school. Maybe you have a season-ending injury or something happens. You got to get it while you can. And so I totally understand Romeo's decision, although we should note he technically could still remove his name from consideration.
Yeah, I'll see that when lightning flies out of my fingertips, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
I'm just making it clear that it still could be done, because IU, for example, did have 3 other players put their name in consideration for the draft, but the other 3, they did not get invited to the combine among the 66 other players.
Well, now we could probably take a bet on whether or not Romeo stays in the draft, because the big news of the day, Governor Holcomb signs the sports gambling bill into law, and that's a big deal. Indiana becomes one of the first states in the Midwest and only one of 10 in the country with legalized sports gambling. I mean, to me, that's pretty amazing, because you look at some of the other big-ticket items in the country like marijuana. I think the Kremlin will have marijuana legally before Indiana does. And so for them to have sports gambling is pretty a big thing, I think, for the state.
Yeah, I'm with you on several fronts there. First being how quickly Indiana acted on initiating and allowing for this to take place here soon, along with several other things gambling related, like something over in Terre Haute casino. But yeah, this has great potential. And I come from the belief that you're either a real gambler or you're not. I don't see this as X person never really gambles. They start because it's now legal and become addicted. There might be a few individuals, but I don't see that really taking place. And I think that for a lot of people, that was the downside that came with it. So this has real opportunity. Obviously, the revenue for the state, it allows them to make money off some things those dedicated gamblers are doing anyway. And it also is just an interesting thing to watch, especially with these sports teams as they continue to look for revenue themselves and the in-game things. How much fun could it be, Jim, for 4.7 seconds left, Pacers are down by 1. Could you bet, do the Pacers win? Who takes the last shot? Is it a turnover? I mean, those are little things that are interesting on top of just the general things. You bet the line, you try to get parlays and various things like that.
Yeah, the old famous prop bets from the Super Bowl, betting on the coin toss and this, that, and the other thing. It's crazy. Because now everything can be done from your phone. That's what makes it so nuts. It's just like, bam, everything's right at your fingertips.
That's the good thing and the bad thing, right? Because the accessibility, the negative side of that is you can easily get caught up in 5, 10, 15 bets for a game. I had a friend that does some offshore gambling, and we were out one night, and he was tracking like 7 different bets for just one game. For me, it's kind of a headache. I have no idea how people have the type of energy and emotion to dedicate to that. And it really sways your emotion. But also, we should mention, it'll be interesting to see how this positively or negatively impacts TV ratings a little bit, because if more and more people have something on the line, I think we're going to see live sports TV ratings go up just a tick yet again, as all the rest of television seems to be in a decline because it's very much an on-demand world.
It makes complete sense, Scott. But another thing that really comes to mind that really makes the fact that Indiana is one of these states that has done this is Indiana is home to so many amateur sports headquarters. The NCAA, I think the AAU, there's so many others that are there. And I wonder what their reaction is going to be to this.
No, that's fair. I think USA football, USA track and field, gymnastics, I think, for USA is all headquartered right here. Yeah, it's a primetime spot. I'm curious about it as well. My belief might be that if they can get a cut, if they can somehow get a portion of it, then they're all for it, right? That's what it seems to be, is everybody looks with their hand out saying, all right, if this is legal, how can I get my share?
Absolutely. All right, before we talk again, the playoffs that are currently being played in the NBA will be decided at least down to 4 teams. Who do you see battling for East Conference championship? It's easy on the East side because Milwaukee obviously is going to be one of those teams.
Yeah, but I will say I've also been really impressed with Toronto and what they've been able to do. Milwaukee's also obviously been strong, and that's because they actually have a good coach in place in Mike Budenholzer over Jason Kidd, who kind of wrecked them a couple years ago. And it's just laughable that if the Lakers are even considering him for this head coaching role. But they obviously have Bud and Giannis. And then Toronto also impressed me. So I'd really like to see that in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the West, like I've always continue to be tweeting here, is if anybody's selling their Golden State Warriors stock, please give me a call. I'll buy it all.
Yeah, that's a tough team to bet against. I mean, you can't forget who they still have on that roster.
They have the experience. They have the toughness. They've been there and done that. The only thing we saw this, I think it was in Game 3 recently, is that their shots were just off. I mean, with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson combined to make 4 or 5 threes, and that's it, they're probably not going to win. Let's face it, these are two guys that often combine for double-digit threes and have the capability of hitting double-digit threes by themselves. So when you're living and dying by the three, for the most part, that's going to happen. But I really entrust that they'll figure it out. And honestly, selfishly, I hope the Rockets don't advance because I just don't find their brand of basketball entertaining at all. It is just a challenge for me to sit through Rockets games. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of James Harden, I got to tell you. A lot of people are, but I'm not. But, oh, well, to each to own, man, to each to own. Hey, you can follow him on Twitter, @ScottAgness. Great friend of the show. Scott, we appreciate you so much. Thanks a lot for joining us, man. We look forward to doing it again next week.
Happy to. Have a good week.
Thank you, Scott Agness from The Athletic. Stay tuned. We've got more coming up here as Kevin Brockway joins us next. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat.
And I'm Justin Kalen with Indiana Sports Beat.
Justin, what's your favorite show?
It's got to be Indiana Sports Beat, but I'm not ever sure where to find it.
Well, you can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey sports fans, this is Lily King. Make sure you tune into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle with you as always. Hope your day's off to a great start. And our good friend Kevin Brockway, IU beat writer from CNHI Papers, joins us now. Kevin, how's your day going, man?
Good morning.
It was a slow news week, man. Just turned into all kinds of stuff just erupting yesterday, man, with nothing bigger, of course, than Governor Eric Holcomb signing a new bill into law that will make Indiana just the 10th out of 50 states that allows sports gambling.
Yeah, no question. And it's interesting, Jim, when you look at the potential economic impact for the state versus a school that has a number of college programs, including two in the Big Ten in Indiana and Purdue, in terms of how you monitor it. I think it's going to be fascinating, and the fact that you can do it on your mobile phones. There's obviously a convenience factor to that. I think you're going to see a lot of gambling activity. Now the question will become, will it affect the integrity of the competition on the field, both in college and in, the professional franchises, the Indiana Pacers that you have here as well?
Yeah, I think that, not to say that couldn't ever happen, but I think those days are kind of behind people because you can affect any. If that was the goal to try to affect something in that way, that can be done anywhere. It doesn't have to be within the state for that to happen. But more to your point, not only are these colleges here, Indianapolis is home to so many athletic associations, homes. Of course, the NCAA, the biggest, but there are all kinds of amateur athletics associations that are housed in Indianapolis. It will be. It'd be curious to see how they end up reacting to this.
Yeah, and I think the main concern, I have talked to some people for a story I'm working on, is not necessarily the traditional point spread, but a lot of the prop bets, a lot of the little things that will be able to be done that you can, as an athlete, you could potentially affect fairly easily and not necessarily affect the outcome of the game. So I think that's their big concern at this point. And also the accessibility, the mobile accessibility. But like I said, really, there hasn't been really a major point shaving scandal that I could remember since probably Toledo about 10 years ago, if that's correct, in the late 2008, 2009 range. So I think times have changed. And there's some people that think that, hey, bringing this above board, you take out the element that's more likely to fix games.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. It'll be interesting. But yeah, that's something Scott Agness from The Athletic was on with us earlier, and that's one of the things we talked about. He mentioned was the prop bets, the ability to make these bets on these silly things. Who's going to be leading after the first quarter or at halftime or this, that, and the other thing. For the Super Bowl, when the Super Bowl comes around, they have prop bets for things that I couldn't even imagine. I mean, forget about the coin toss and that kind of stuff. When that first happened, we were all like, wow, that's kind of funny. Man, they got prop bets that will so-and-so wear wristbands, will, who knows what. It's the craziest things, but it makes it a nonstop. It used to be you'd place a bet on the game and you just wait for the game to outcome and see what happened. Well, now there's 15 different things you can bet on during the game to keep it active, keep the betting active.
Yeah, Jim, it's really incredible the amount of the sheer volume that it could create. I mean, listen, it could create a great boom, tax-wise for tax money for the state if you're trying to look at the positive of it and be able to fund other initiatives. So there's a reason why they're doing it. I'm sure that's one of the major reasons is, to create tax revenue for the state, and certainly all those prop bets are going to help in that regard. It's just going to be a question of how much and if it's going to affect competition.
Absolutely. Joined by our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, the IU beat writer for the Hoosiers. Speaking of Indiana, the APR came out as a whole, and Indiana did pretty well in the classroom. 14 of the 22 teams had perfect scores in the APR. But more importantly, basketball score is still above the 930 mark of what you need. They were under a tremendous strain at the end of the Tom Crean era. As a matter of fact, when Archie's first season, he could not afford to have a single player transfer because it would have kicked him out below the Mendoza line of the APR. But I said many times now, it probably would have been better off if they would have hadn't done that, because they could have started their roster overhaul then, because they ended up not making the tournament the last 2 years anyway.
Yeah, I think, Jim, it's really important for all the programs, I think, especially basketball. You take a look at the average scores in basketball, and I believe it's somewhere in the 960 range. It's just such a transient sport, as we're finding out with a lot of transfers and grad transfers and people do the transfer part. It's just really important for the kids, if they're going to leave, to be academically in good standing. And that's, I think, what you're trying to push if you're Indiana or all these schools. You have so many great tutoring programs really throughout the country. There should be no excuse for you not to leave in academic good standing. And it is a rough sport. We know they put in more than 20 hours a week, even though that's the NCAA guidelines. We know they put in a lot of time with voluntary workouts, but got to stay on top of things. And, credit to Indiana basketball for, keeping that score above the threshold. And hopefully the next few years, you try to build on that and give yourself a little more breathing room above that 930 threshold.
Yeah, it's a key is they have begun that roster overhauling for Archie Miller to maintain success, but that shouldn't be a problem. Their score this year was 980, so things are heading in the right direction. They're getting away from what had happened there at the end of the Crean era. And then today, the Big Ten softball tournament kicks off, weather permitting, in Bloomington at Andy Moore Field. Indiana plays was scheduled to play at 4:30 against Penn State. I've been looking at the radar, man. It looks like they may get lucky today, but it's going to be a hit or miss kind of a thing.
Well, Jim, I think the issue could be too some of the other games, and the weather being pushed back. You have an 11 a.m. and you have a 2, and then Indiana goes at 4:30 and Purdue goes later than that. So I think you might have a situation where games get delayed, certainly. But I know we had a chance to talk to Shonda Stanton. She's very excited about the opportunity to showcase Andy Moore Field and the program and the progress that Indiana softball has made the last 2 years. Being on the bubble for the NCAA tournament, and last year the 17 conference wins. They're certainly trending in a positive direction, softball wise, these last couple of years. And as the 6th, 7th seed in the tournament, who knows what they could do. There's a chance they could make a little run here and feed off that home crowd.
We'll see if they can get that done, and hopefully they can. Indiana sitting in the 7th spot. They've taken on Penn State, the 10th seed. If they win, they'll play the same time tomorrow. But it's a good opportunity for a team when you have a conference tournament at home, not only to show off your program and your stadium and all that stuff, but teams generally play better at home. So I'm not sure how much of an advantage it's going to be for Indiana because they're down at the 7th spot. They're kind of right in the middle. But hopefully it helps them a lot. It allows them to play deep into the weekend.
Well, and you have a senior pitcher in Tara Trainer, too, and that always helps. And we know how important pitching is in that sport. Whoever is in the circle really can dictate a lot. So you hope that she can rise to the occasion. And being at home, you have a little bit more of a comfort level. As Shonda Stanton said the other day, sleeping in your own bed and having your own routine and not having to travel. Hopefully will all be factors for them that they can, kind of rally together here and put together a little fun run for the home fans. But the weather, of course, could put a damper on things in terms of crowd size and games starting on time and so forth. But I'm sure they're hoping that the fans will come out rain or shine.
And then in the world of basketball recruiting, tomorrow is D-Day for Lester Quinones. Many people expecting him to pick Memphis. The crystal ball for him on the 247 Sports Composites got him a 90% to Memphis. Indiana is the other school that he is looking at, narrowed it down to 2 choices. Nothing's impossible, but all things are pointing towards Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, and unfortunate for Indiana because you could really use that shooter on your roster, right? And Lester can really shoot. But I guess never say never. I mean, the decision will be tomorrow. If not, then, you end up saving a lot of scholarships for next year. And that might not be a bad thing as well because there's a lot of players on the horizon in 2020 that are quality players as well. So see how it shakes out tomorrow. But like you said, it looks like going to Penny Hardaway and Mike Miller, they're putting together quite a squad down there in Memphis, and you're in you're in a little bit, you're in a lesser conference, but it is a traditional program, and you got to think that last sell you can put on Lester Quinones is come play in one of the Power 5 conferences, and play on the Big Ten Network, and you're going to be playing on the national stage, but nowadays, kids have different reasons for making choices, and I'm sure whatever choice Quinones makes will be best for him and his family.
Yeah, and there's still the possibility of adding a grad transfer or 2 because that would only take up a year on the scholarship, so they wouldn't really lose anything as opposed to letting them sit open, especially after last year's rash of injuries that really depleted the roster and made life difficult for Archie Miller and the Indiana Hoosiers. There's a great possibility there.
Yeah, and you want the bodies for practice too. A lot of people, usually you have a 9 or 10 player rotation, but you want guys that'll be able to, push each other in practice. And the more scholarship bodies you have, the more competitive practices are. A lot of people don't realize that or don't think of it in those terms, but you really need those guys to push you. I remember I had one coach tell me in discussing about the fact of, McDowell's All-Americans, and he said, you need 1 or 2 on your roster because they're going to make everyone around them better as well. And they're going to, push them in practice. You don't think of it necessarily in those terms either, but, the higher rated recruits really can have a rub off effect on the people around you because you're seeing them every day in practice. So having that depth is important. So you've got to weigh that, I think, against, what you're looking for in 2020. And maybe you do bring in another body if you don't get Quinones. So we'll certainly see how that shakes out between now and June.
Yeah, you've got Ethan Morton, who looks to be headed towards Purdue, an Indiana recruit, which that would be a blow as well because not only you're not getting a recruit, but you're losing it to a rival.
Yeah, and Matt Painter's done some good things up there, as we know. Certainly, getting to the Elite Eight this past season and the stability there in the program, and I think that's what Archie's. You're trying to build that really at Indiana. Just having that stability and having a coach that's been there a while and that's created something and created something that recruits are going to know that they're going to be there and they know what their role is going to be because the coach has communicated that with them. And certainly that's what Matt Painter has going right now at Purdue, and that's something that Indiana is striving for right now with Archie, that kind of consistency. And it begins with putting a few good seasons together. And as we've discussed, next season is going to be a really big season for Archie, kind of make that jump and to, get them back to the big tournament, to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and with that decision looming today, Lester Quinones tomorrow, if neither one of those hit, Indiana's going to be kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit because they lost a lot of scoring with Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan both leaving. Obviously, Juwan Morgan graduated and Romeo left after 1 season. They lost a lot of scoring, and they obviously have Trace Jackson Davis coming in, Mr. Basketball for Indiana 2019, and Armand Franklin and Joey Brunk. But that's not the same as what they lost. These guys are a couple of freshmen that are going to have to learn the game. But Joey Brunk's a solid fill-in, but he's not exactly Juwan Morgan numbers.
Yeah, and Juwan had a couple of workouts, by the way, as you saw the Memphis Grizzlies. He's working out with the Timberwolves today. And then, of course, Romeo and Carson Edwards invited to the Combine. So that happened yesterday, too. It was quite a busy day yesterday. And we'll see if Romeo participates and how that impacts his potential draft stock. And he's slipping a little bit, in projections. He was a guy that some people had in the lottery a few weeks ago now, more in the 17, 18 range. I saw one that had him down at 22. So Romeo's stock will be interesting, and maybe he does take part in all the combine workouts in an effort to raise his stock and to show teams that he's healthy. That will be something worth monitoring next week up in Chicago, how much he participates and how his measurables are. And Carson Edwards, another guy that's, early second round projection pick, could be a fringe first rounder. So that'll be interesting to watch too.
Well, right on cue, we get a text in from Tim. Had a dream last night. Romeo came back. Why not? They are talking other players that declared that are a little better than Romeo, and they are suggesting they come back for another year. Well, many people have suggested Romeo come back, but it's the Romeo camp. They're not coming back. That is not going to happen. I think that his camp was dead set on this from the start, and nothing is going to change that for them. So I don't see that. Plus, he's still going in the first round, and his goal was to get to the NBA. His goal was not to play for Indiana. That's what I think people forget. Indiana only happened because of what happened to Louisville. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have never been at Indiana. So his dream was not to play for Indiana, and wearing that jersey, that was just a second backup thought. So he's, in my opinion, there's no way Romeo Langford comes back out of the draft. And you mentioned the NBA draft combine. He was the only player of the 4 IU players that submitted their names that was invited to that combine.
Yeah, and first round is guaranteed money, as we know, and guaranteed money is hard to turn down when you're in that kind of a situation. So I think provided he doesn't slip out of the first round, which listen, you never know in the NBA draft. I mean, I've seen plenty of kids' stocks fall right before the draft, right after the draft. There are so many factors that go into it. We've seen in the NFL draft too. Drafts are kind of a funny animal, and they can take on a life of their own. But I would be shocked if Romeo did fall out of the first round based on his ability and based on the fact that there's going to be a team that will probably fall in love with his upside and fall in love with his potential and think that if they can work with him, he has the athletic ability, and he's an explosive athletic talent, and the NBA is an explosive league when you look at that athletically. I mean, I think that's kind of the first box that you have to check, and NBA teams will work with you on some of the shooting, which Romeo struggled and claimed was the thumb. I mean, that's something they feel like they can work on with him.
Talking to our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, the IU beat writer. You can read that in places like New Albany, Jeffersonville, Anderson, all over the state. What are you working on right now, Kevin? What can the fans expect to see from you?
Yeah, no, I am working on a sports gambling follow-up story from throughout the state. So it's signed into law. I'm working on that, and also working on, obviously I'll be at softball this weekend, so I'll be covering a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, we will hopefully see you. Planning on seeing you out there, depending on, like I said, the weather. Hope they've got a plan in place. That would be pretty devastating for a Big Ten tournament like that, because, and that's something else I mentioned earlier. You look at the baseball field, the men's baseball at Indiana. It's all turf. The infield's turf. The base paths are turf. They can take a lot of rain there. On the women's side, I noticed the base paths are brick dust or dirt weather, and that's something they're going to have to pay mind to.
Yeah, no question. It's going to be a tricky balancing act there with the dirt infield and the grass outfield, getting that all set up. But Indiana, hopefully they go tonight and maybe make a little push here. It's going to be tough on Friday with a lot of us teams with the bye, including Michigan and Northwestern are always tough teams. But maybe the Hoosiers can find a way to pull it out.
We'll certainly see. Thanks a lot for joining us, brother. We'll see you later. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Kevin joining us. We appreciate him as always. And thanks to Scott Agness as well from The Athletic joining us. Tomorrow, Todd Leary as always, and another special guest. We've been killing it this week. Greg Graham, former IU Hoosier, will be with us as well. Thanks to Jake for getting things rolling, keeping things rolling. That's going to wrap it up for today from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.